Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into Nothing But Rants, the show where I find, topics that are newsworthy that I'm ultimately passionate about, bring them to you, and rant about them. We'll take phone calls throughout the night from our OGs as well over on the Patreon platform. If you are not already subscribed, please feel free to do so. That's patreon.com/Brooks Austin. The link is in the bio. Before we get going into our business, let's handle some business up front. Please, wherever you found this, however you found this, like, subscribe, rate, whatever. Give me a thumbs up, share it wherever you want to. Feel free to put the channel on notifications. It's that little bell button over there on YouTube so you never miss a show whenever we go live. I try to typically get these things around the same schedule, but, I'm human, so things start to change. Like the Lord of the Dings calling in sick last night. That's not my fault. We got to adjust. So we did. We moved NBR to tonight, and I got a loaded show for you. We'll start the show with UGA's biggest questions heading into spring practice. It's right around the corner, folks. March will be here before you can even blink an eye. I mean, it will be on our doorsteps. Georgia will be suited and booted for spring practice very, very soon before you even know it. So we'll address some of the questions there. Biggest holes left to fill in that 2022 class. Look, 2021 is about wrapped up. I mean, the final late window national signing day is right around the corner. 2021 is about to be signed, sealed, and delivered to colleges everywhere. Georgia's already got 16 guys on campus, so 2021 is about done. They got one major target out left. We've got some updates over there on the Patreon account and dogsdaily.com as well on Terry and Arnold, so feel free to check that out. So we'll kind of go through what they've got to do in 2022 to fill the holes on their current roster and the holes left or ones that didn't get filled by that 2021 class. And last but certainly not least, I've got a hellified rant for not only the NCAA, but what they've done to recruiting. I call it the recruiting trickle-down effect. We did some very extensive research today. We won't be too heavy in the numbers, but the guys over there on the Discord channel did a great job, helping me out with some research, helping the Lord of the Dings out with some research on that as well, about tonight's rant on the recruiting trickle-down effect. And finally, we'll ask the question that everybody wants to know, at least people in my circles. What does the NCAA actually do? I thought they got exposed quite mightily about, what they do and don't do, what they are responsible for, what they're not responsible for this year more than ever with the pandemic and this pandemic football season that we had. So, loaded show, as you can tell. And, of course, like I mentioned, we will be taking phone calls from the OGs over there on the Patreon account. They've got that phone number. I believe if they don't, just go search your call history. You guys have been in here before. All right. Let's start with the biggest questions for Georgia heading into the spring, semester, heading into spring football, which again is right around the corner. Number one, and most importantly, not only what are they going to do at corner, but who are they going to hire at the cornerback position? It's starting to dwindle down. They've got some pretty high targets that they've, narrowed down to a couple, doing some final interviews, and it looks like they're coming to a conclusion very, very soon. We'll keep you updated with as much information as we have. Again, over there on the Patreon account, you'll get it first there, and then we'll release whatever we've got on Dogs Daily Follow shortly after that. But more importantly, at least in the short term, is what are they actually going to do at corner? Who are they going to play at corner? Who earns playing time at corner? And from what I've heard, from what I've been told, and from what I've told you guys, is that, in my opinion, based slightly off sources as well, Keely Ringo is going to be one of your cornerbacks. It's a matter of who's going to win that other job and I think it's between three guys. It's between Nyland Green, Jalen Kimber, and Amir Speed. Which one of those three guys is going to battle it out and win that position and play alongside Keely Ringo? Because, again, I don't like to write these things in stone, but I would etch it in pretty hard ink if I may. Not writing that one down in pencil. I don't think it's going to need to be erased, barring some type of injury or something. Keely Ringo is the future at the cornerback position at the University of Georgia, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm excited to see him play in the very, very near future as early as this fall. So super excited about number 5. I'm sure we'll have some type of breakdown on him at some point this offseason. So that's a major question. Who are your two corners going to be, and who's going to be, the partner, the riding partner with a guy like Keely Ringo? Those are some questions I want answered. Now, my next one is the other troublesome group. Not necessarily troublesome group, still loaded with talent, just like the cornerback room, but it's not very experienced in terms of talent. That's the offensive line group. There's a lot of questions to be answered there this spring as well. I do think they start the spring like they finished the 2020 season. So you'll have Xavier Truss at left tackle. You'll have Jamari Sawyer at left guard. You'll have Warren Erickson at center, Justin Schaefer, and Warren McClendon rounding out from left to right. That's might how they start in walkthroughs, shells, first initial practices, getting everybody's feet wet. But what I would do, and we've talked about this not only on my Twitter platform, but the Discord as well, and of course the Patreon on our breakdown, our film session breakdowns. Look, I've been on the record. I think Warren McClendon is a dynamite left tackle. Everything about his profile tells me he's a left tackle. He's got extremely quick feet, got an effortless pass set. He gets back there and handles speed rush with the best of them. Got a really solid anchor for a guy that doesn't have a solid anchor in the run game. Everything about his pass blocking abilities, to me, is flawless. When I watch him pass pro, I'm reminded of a guy like Andrew Thomas, who got his initial starts at right tackle and then made the seamless transition over to left tackle. And from that right to left tackle switch, I don't worry about McClendon making it because, again, he's extremely athletic. Now, what I would do at left guard is, Jamari, you've got left guard. It's yours. You're our leader. You're our follow me, watch how I work type of guy from everything I've heard. So you got that left guard spot. Center on to right tackle. I'm going to tell you right now, I would have an all-out war. An all-out war. Let guys compete their backside off this spring. Warren Erickson, if you want to start at center, you've got to hold off Cedric Van Pran Granger. And guess what? We're giving you a 50-50 rep split all spring too. Y'all are going to battle it out and basically getting in a brawl every single day. Competitive energy is going to be at an all-time high on our offensive line if I'm that head coach. At right guard, Justin Schaefer, you want to start? You came back for a 5th, 6th year. If you want to start, you're going to have to hold off Tate Ratlish. You're going to have to hold off Chad Lindbergh. When Micah Morris gets healthy, you're going to have to hold him off. Marlon Dean, you're going to have to, Jared Wilson, you're going to have to hold him off. I don't know why my brain constantly gets Marlon Dean and Jared Wilson confused. Maybe it's that Northeast Georgia on into North Carolina, South Carolina region type thing for me. I don't know. My brain's weird. Right tackle. When I talk about a war, Broderick Jones, Amarius Mims, Xavier Truss, whoever else you want to throw in that right tackle mix, y'all going to battle it out. And I mean absolutely battle it out. I would turn spring practice into a glorified fall camp because that's what it is. At those positions, from center over to right tackle, in my opinion, it's a free-for-all. And that's the way you should approach it. You should approach it with the competitive balance of a free-for-all. And may the best man win. The next observation, not really a question I have for you heading into spring ball, more of a statement. And I'll just leave it at a blank statement. If you want to know more, join us on Patreon. Watch out for Austin Blaschke. That's all I'm going to say. We just spent 2 or 3 minutes talking about offensive linemen. Watch out for Austin Blaschke. The kid from South Effingham, Georgia, is an absolute animal. I mean, an absolute animal. All the lack of physicality that we've talked about on this channel over the years from Georgia up front, this kid's going to solve all those problems. He's an absolute dog. And I mean it in the D-O-G way, like slobbering from his mouth. Not D-A-W-G. I'm talking about dog. The kid is a dog. He's going to play for the University of Georgia. I just don't know how early. Last question I got. It's all about the young guys this spring. How comfortable does Xavier Sori and Smile Mondon, if he's available? He had a knee injury this season to kind of cut his senior season out there at Paulding County short. How comfortable do they look at a traditional inside linebacker set, which I believe they're ultimately going to be playing? Glenn Schumann was the recruiter for both of those individuals. That's not a coinky-dink, okay? That is a direct indication that they want those individuals to play an inside linebacker. And, as a recruiting analyst, your job is to ask these young men, hey, what are you being recruited at? What do you think they want you to play? What are they telling you they want you to play? And all indications from those two individuals are they're going to be playing inside linebacker. So it's something that neither of them have done a whole lot. Smile a little bit more than Xavier. And Xavier's been playing on the edge and out in space his whole entire high school career. So how does he adjust to reading keys on the college level? That's something we need to be paying attention to this spring, because if he's taking slow to it, either one of them, if they're taking slow to the actual defense, that's a good indication that they might not be ready to play early on in their career, okay? They might be, directed to special teams, which they'll be hellified special teams players. But for Georgia, they're in an advantageous position because guys like Quay Walker, Channing Tindall, Ryan Davis, they've been in the system. They know the system. They're comfortable at playing inside linebacker. So it's not that big of a question. But for me, I want to know, how comfortable do these guys, which Georgia believes their future projection is at inside linebacker, how comfortable and how quick do they take to the position? That's something that I want to know. Additionally, young guys like David Daniel, is he practicing at safety? Is he practicing at star? Has he picked up the playbook enough to learn and play both? It is very, very complex at the University of Georgia. So can he do both? Because I'll tell you this, we found out really, really quickly at the University of Georgia this year that, back in the back end, corner's one thing, but safeties as well. Ain't a whole lot of bodies back there, guys. Ain't a whole lot of them, okay? It's been depleted pretty quickly, especially with Tyreek Stevenson hitting the portal as well. So guys like David Daniel, who maybe 4 months ago might not have had their name called as a true freshman, Major Burns got his name called against Florida and the rest of the season. All it takes is 1 or 2 injuries at this point at that safeties room, and next thing you know, you got a true freshman playing back there. So what kind of versatility does he provide, and how many positions is he ultimately learning? Those are questions that I want to have answered. And last, but certainly not least, this is a question we're going to be talking about for a long time when it comes to Georgia Bulldog football and Georgia circles. Carson versus Brock, okay? This spring, assuming Brock Vandagriff is back from his rehab and ready to roll for spring practice, like we expect him to be, who's going to win that backup spot? I know Stetson's there. That's great. Who's going to win that team over? You got 15 practices in the spring to show that you're the dude, okay? You're the guy moving forward. That when JT Daniels leaves, the future resides in you. It's not going to be finalized in the spring, okay, between Carson and Brock. But I'll tell you what, you'll know pretty quickly who's got an edge over each other, okay? You will never get more reps as a college football player that is not a starter, especially at the quarterback position, than you will in spring practice. It is an absolute free-for-all, okay? Take it from somebody who, started for 3 or 4 years in college, but every single spring, even though you're a returner, it does not matter. And they practice with you as such. Everyone got equal reps. I don't know if that's the case at Georgia, but I know that's the case at most programs. It's a free-for-all in spring. So who between Carson Beck and Brock Vandagriff wins that free-for-all leaving spring practice? That'll be very telling for me and for the rest of us to see, who do they kind of see their future leaning towards? If something were to happen to JT Daniels, or if Georgia were to get up into some blowout situations next year, who's the first guy coming off the bench in relief, in mop-up duty type stuff? That question will be kind of answered this spring. So those are kind of some of the things that I'm looking forward to seeing this spring from Georgia football. Look, man, last year, no spring practice killed Georgia. Had a new offensive coordinator. We're trying to work in a quarterback, and you didn't even really know who it was. So by the time you got to August and Jamie Newman ultimately opted out again, and you're throwing your hands up, now you're really, really behind. Because you're still in offensive install and you're still trying to figure out what offense you're really going to run because you don't know who your quarterback's going to be. So having a standard offseason, which by all accounts it seems like we're going to have, which praise God, because the quality of football early on in the season last year was abysmal. It was great. We had football, but it was not quality football until about midway through the season when these guys finally started to knock the rust off. This year, they might not have that. They'll have a standard offseason, have good offseason conditioning, good offseason workouts, and everything should flow smoothly, hopefully. All right, so, we talked about biggest questions going into the spring. Next, we got to kind of look towards 2022 because, guys, it's heating up for Georgia, okay? There's several big-time candidates. Michael Williams, Malachi Starks. Nobody knows when he's going to commit, but we expect it to be sometime in the next, sometime this spring, I would assume. Christian Miller, he's right up around the commitment date back in April. So it's happening. Our guy, Emory Floyd from Hillgrove, super fast safety. Glenn Ford believes he's the fastest defensive back in high school football right now, and it's verified by his track times. He is the fastest football player in America, according to verified track times. His commitment date is right around the corner. So big targets for the University of Georgia in that 2022 class are coming off the board relatively soon. And they've got some holes to fill, and I'll start right now with the wide receiver position. And I know people are going to say, well, Brooks, everybody's telling me Georgia's almost too loaded at the wide receiver position. And I'll say, yeah, right now they are. But in a couple of years when this 2022 class is actually on campus, actually starting to work themselves into reps, George Pickens is likely going to be gone. Kearis Jackson, gone. Demetrius Robinson, gone. That 2021 class that they just signed, pretty shallow at the wide receiver position with just 2 commits in Jackson Meeks and Adonai Mitchell, neither of which were necessarily blue chippers. You've also got some guys in that 2019 signing class that played as true freshmen this year that got 3 and done written all over them. Are we sitting here today saying you're guaranteed to have 4 years of Jermaine Burton? I wouldn't bet on that. Are we sitting here guaranteeing you 4 years of Marcus Orsimi-Jacksaint? I'm not guaranteeing you that. Are we sitting here saying you've got guaranteed 4 years of Arian Smith? Who knows? That guy could have 2 years looking like Mecole Hardman, and all of a sudden he's a second-round draft pick to the Kansas City Chiefs. And you're sitting there holding the bag with nobody left in your wide receiver room. Wide receivers in 2022, they better load up, and they better load up with some good ones and some high-quality ones, and I think they're on track to do so. What is a strength now could be a very depleted wide receiver room in just a few years. You turn around, and it's done like that. You've got an empty or a virtually empty wide receivers room. All right, another one, it's a duh moment, right? It's defensive backs. And this isn't new to the University of Georgia. It's new that they had the mass exodus that they did this year at the defensive backs room. But, I mean, if you know Kirby Smart's history, he's prone to sign at least 4 corners and defensive back prospects every single class. Most likely that ventures into 5, sometimes even 6 defensive backs per class. So he's going to load them up every single year. And he started out pretty good right now with Marquis Grove's Killebrew in this 2022 class and Deion Smoke Bowie in this 2022 class. 2 completely different athletes, 2 electric flying athletes. Marquis is more of your traditional long, big-bodied corner, about 6'2", 6'2 and a half, real long, great press man coverage guy. I mean, all he does is play man coverage out there at Brookwood High School. So elite prospect at the cornerback position. And then Deion Smoke Bowie is kind of this hybrid football player that is just prone to making plays. And whether you want to leave him on offense or leave him on defense, whenever he touches the ball, it's going to be electric. He's almost, at this point in high school, he's guaranteed to score. So they did a great job early on in 2022 stacking that DB room, but it's got to get better. I like where they stand with Malachi Starks out of Jefferson, who I believe is going to be a dynamite SEC safety in the near future. I like where they stand with Emory Floyd out there at Hillgrove. I think they're doing really good things at the defensive backs position right now, but they've got to finish strong, and they've got to finish heavy in the defensive backs room and really make it a priority. And then, of course, defensive line is always going to be something that Georgia and Coach Trey, Trey Scott constantly load up on talent. And the other thing I've noticed about 2022 is they're doing it similar to what they did in 2021. And COVID could be a result or a factor in this, is that they are loading up on in-state talent. 6 for 6 right now in that 2022. Siri, chill out. They're stacking that in-state prospects like they were last year in that 2021 class. I think they went 7 for 7 to start in 2021, and their first out-of-state commit, I believe, was Lavassier Carroll, and he's a South Georgia boy, okay, that went down to IMG Academy. So they're loading up on Peach State products, which I'm okay with. I understood the need in 2019 to kind of branch out and go get guys like Kendall Milton, go get guys like Keely Ringo, go get guys like Darnell Washington. But when you can't hop on Kirby's private jet or Kirby's copter, and jet off to another school and sit down with mom and dad and convince them that Georgia's the place to be, even though it's 9,000 miles clear across the country, if you can't do that, you better pound the state where you can, build those close relationships, and you've probably already built those close relationships. Luckily for most programs, the in-state relationships have already been built with that 2022 class. Marquis Grove's Killebrew's been on campus several times before this shutdown happened. Same thing for Deion Smoke Bowie. Christian Miller, been on campus. Tyree West, the commit in 2022, been on campus. All these guys, most of them have been on campus already. They felt the environment. If this continues into 2023, we've got some problems, ladies and gentlemen, but hopefully we're not there. Hopefully we're back to normal relatively soon. Of course, the NCAA will readdress in-person evaluations, the in-person visits, I believe in April. So for the whole entire 2021 cycle, it's done. They're not going out and seeing anybody. And for most of, 75 to 80% of that 2022 cycle as of now, they ain't going out and seeing you either. So it's going to be a lot of height, weight, speed. Can I make that transition to my process when they get to college? Because you don't have in-person evaluations. So guys, I'm going to tell you right now, as an evaluator who I love watching tape, I'm literally the film guy. But my number one thing about, especially the quarterback position or, defensive lineman, offensive lineman, I've got to see you in person, in my opinion, to give a fully developed opinion about your skill set. It only does me so good to watch you on tape at certain positions. I've got to be able to see it. Running backs too, I got to see game speed. I got to see spatial awareness. I got to be on the field to know how your body moves. For me to finalize that full in-depth analysis, which these guys are doing at these SEC programs, at these Power 5 programs. They're picking between extremely talented guys on tape. They all look identical almost on tape. Without that in-person evaluation, I think you're going to see some misses moving on in the future. So just be patient. Okay, there's going to be guys that Georgia passed up on that go on to other programs and light it up. You just didn't have it, okay? You just missed it just a little bit. You had to bank on, what was there. Film evaluation, verified data in terms of height, weight, and speed, and pretty much taking gambles on whether or not you can convert it to your system. So that's there. Before we take any calls, I will extend an olive branch. Phone's been dry tonight. We got some OGs. They're a little bit shy. Maybe they're just too caught up in the show. I get that. If you guys want to call in, now would be the time. While I take a minute to thank some of the guys over there on the Discord chat. Look, it took me about, I would say maybe a month or two to realize, and pardon my language, so kids, earmuffs if you're around, but we got some verified badasses in that Discord chat, okay? In that Patreon community that we've worked to build over the last several months, we've got some bona fide badasses. And what I mean by that is we got some veterans that served this country and served it well. And first of all, we're very thankful for your service. And we got active duty guys over there as well. So we quite literally have a militia. And we were talking about it the other day, and I told them, I promised them I'd give them a shout out here. So I don't have all their names right now, which is a knock on me and my production assistant back there, Lord of the Dinks. So mark it down on your grade report. So don't have names for you, but I do have my sincerest, appreciation for what you guys have done and continue to do for this country, protecting the right for me to sit in this little studio and spout off opinions. So shout out to you guys for that. Before we get into our final couple of segments for tonight, and especially if we don't have phone calls tonight, I'm going to be honest with you, I think that's kind of on me because typically I post the phone number for the show in our Patreon account, and I don't think I did that today, which is on me. Can you take care of that? Send that into the Discord chat. Just send them my number. That'll be fine. So Lord of the Dings got you guys over there on the Discord chat. He will send that out, and he's going to reveal his identity doing so, but that's okay. It's for the brand. It's for the team. It's for the homies. So Football Q4BA. This is a segment we do every single NBR show, every Nothing But Rants show. We always bring you a football question from the audience. If you want to get in on this action, just send me an email at footballq, the letter Q, for FORBA, my initials, at gmail.com. Again, that's footballq4ba at gmail.com. This week's question comes from Preston over on the Patreon account, been one of our OGs for the longest time. Preston asks, Brooks, how are plays called? How are they signaled from the sideline? Are they signaled to the entire team? Are they signaled to different positions? Are they signaled to just offensive players? And what are some examples of some plays and some signal calling versus its corresponding plays? So here's how I'll do it. There's 1,000 ways to do this, first of all. And we'll walk you through a couple of them that I've worked with in the past. The first is the numbering system, right? You've either got a play sheet or a system or a pass protection that works with a numbering system. So here's how we would do it. One arm up is 1. 2 arms up is 2. 1 arm out to the side is 3. 1 arm out to the side is 4. 1 arm on the hip is 5. 1 arm or 2 arms on the hips is 6. 1 arm on the knee is 7. 2 arms on the knee, 2 hands on the knee is 8, right? So odds are 1 hand, okay? 1 signal. Evens are 2. So if I wanted to call a play like, let's say 36 power or punch, right? Punch, power, 36 power. I would go 30 and I would touch both of my knees to connote 6, both of my hips to connote 6. I'm a little rusty. And then I would do power. So again, 36 power. I would go 36 power, okay? That would be the play call. We would do formations in a different way. We would go, some type of pro. Pro's always this, or one pro. We would do tray, right, with 3 simple formation calls, right? So if I wanted to go pro right 36 power, that would be a whole entire play, right? Pro is the formation. Right is the strength of the formation, like an R. 36 is the number of the run scheme and the direction of the run scheme. Power is the run design play. Does that make sense? That's the way to do offensive personnel and offensive play calls. Defense, almost all defensive calls are, signals related to plays. So my favorite one of all time playing defense was my high school head coach. His name was Kenny Dallas. He coached at Trinity Christian now. They just got beat by Brock Vandergrift in Prince Avenue in the state title game. His favorite defensive play call all time, he would call this play about 50% of defensive snaps. It was called knife red X. Essentially, all it was the defensive end knifing into B gap, the outside linebacker replacing that defensive end in C gap. Boom, blows it up, puts the tackle in a major confusion on the high school level. It's called knife red X. Here's how he would signal it. He would knife his arm, show a book like he's reading for red, and then he would do X. That's it. But he would always call it really, really aggressively and really passionate, right? Middle of the game, dead heat of the moment. Knife red X, and then he'd let you go, right? So defensive signal calls are oftentimes much less complex. It's more quick, get set up, evaluate what the offense is trying to do to you. Let's see, what else we got? Watch college football or high school football nowadays. You ever seen the big play cards on the sideline where people are handing up or holding up big pictures of things? Let me walk you through this system. So typically there's 3 or 4 cards held up on the sideline. Just for an example, let's say that states are a formation. So if I want to get into tray, I'll hold up a sign of Texas. Texas is a state. It starts with a T. We want to get into tray, which is 3 receivers to one side, 1 either tight end or another receiver to the other side, right? Texas, tray. T for Texas to tray. Let's say actors are a blocking scheme. So we want to just assign, Seth Rogen to our slide protection, right? S, Seth, slide. We want to assign Seth Rogen to our slide protection scheme. So we want to go tray right, we'll hold up Texas. We want to go slide right, or we'll actually slide away from the trips. So we'll go slide left, we'll hold up a sign of Seth, maybe holding up his left hand. Okay, simple as that. All right, blocking scheme, play design, may be animals. So if we want to run power, most powerful, animal in my mind would be what? A gorilla. So we'll hold up pound for pound, we'll hold up a gorilla for power. Okay, every sign on that sideline has a corresponding meaning. They're not just holding up one sign for a play. They're probably holding up a sign for a formation, a sign for, a play design, and a sign for a blocking scheme. Makes sense? I spoke to one high school coach before we went into this, segment, and he shall remain nameless because I don't want to give away his secrets, but great high school football coach here in Georgia, coaches offense for one of the most highest powered offenses in the state of Georgia in the 2020 season. And they, at this school, have a signal caller for each subsequent position. So if I want to signal the entire play to the quarterback, I have my quarterback's coach or my quarterback's assistant over there signaling to just the quarterback. Next to him is probably the running back's coach, telling the running back what to do. Next to him, probably the offensive line coach, telling the offensive line what to do. Next to him, the wide receivers coach, telling the wide receivers what to do. So what you're doing is you're eliminating the channels that your players have to go through, right? You're eliminating a process, a thought process, letting them play faster, things like that. This offensive coordinator also did something that I really liked, where he would take out the strength of the formation and make players assume that their strength of the formation was to the right. Okay, so if I don't tell you it's pro right, you assume it is pro right. So I'll just say pro. Okay, now if I say pro left, I just keyed you off to line up in pro left. Does that make sense? He's just eliminating factors and making his sentences, because they are. These play calls are sentences, sometimes paragraphs, on the NFL level. Now, some people may ask, like, Brooks, why don't they do this on the NFL? How do they do it on the NFL? Well, they have an earpiece. So they get up to 15 seconds on the play clock and tell them whatever the hell they want. They can recite the play start to finish multiple times, and the quarterback can recite it into the huddle, break the huddle, walk to the line of scrimmage with the coach still in his ear. It is a one-way radio, so the coach can't hear what the quarterback's saying, but the quarterback can hear exactly what the coach is saying. So you don't need signals in the NFL. You just need the headset. It makes it much, much easier, where you can get as fully in depth. You can tag as much as you want on these plays as humanly possible, as long as your quarterback can retain the information, which is why retaining information, things like the Wonderlic score, as much as I hate it, they are a sign of information retention, because you probably, hopefully, practiced the Wonderlic leading up to the NFL draft process. So how well did you retain that training? It's very important for mental processing abilities and things like that. How well do you retain and hold information? How well can you recite it? It's a very big evaluation point for quarterbacks. If you can't do it, you probably can't survive on the NFL level. All the great ones have great, almost historic minds. They can remember things for decades. They're like elephants at that point. So, kind of to follow up on his question, how do you vary these things? I'll tell you, how do you keep people from stealing your signs, basically was the question. Have you ever noticed, especially on a college football field, where all the assistants will be in different colored shirts? I've seen Clemson go as far as to have a bright yellow neon Clemson shirt, a bright green, a pink even over on there on the sidelines. That's to tell you which signaler's hot. Okay, so one drive we might be on green shirt, where the green shirt's giving in all the active hot signals, whereas orange is over there going all kinds of crazy, but he's not actually giving signals. People aren't looking at him. And the other shirt, same thing. Everyone's over there giving signals. You also see it, I've seen Alabama and Georgia use wristbands, where one specific coach will be in a green wristband, one will be in a red wristband, one will be in a white wristband, okay? Same thing. You're basically just, again, allowing your offensive or defensive personnel to identify who is calling the plays quickly and process that information quickly. That's what football at the college level has developed into. How fast can we play? How fast can we get calls in? So everything's been abbreviated, but on the other end, it's also required players to remember a lot more signals, okay? We just went through 4 different systems of how to call plays, not run plays, call plays. Just get them in. So you can imagine when we're talking about playbooks, signals, formations, pass blocking schemes, route concepts. Guys, playbooks in college really can overwhelm these kids, no matter how smart of a program they came from, no matter how much they've been studying their playbooks in high school, no matter how much of a command of their offense or defensive schematics they had. When they get to college, it's a whole nother level. It's like taking Algebra 1 in high school, and then immediately, and that's all you took, and then immediately when you get to college, they're trying to teach you trigonometry. Okay, it's like drinking water from a fire hose for some of these kids. It takes a while. So I always hated when I hear people criticize young players of not being able to pick up a playbook. It's hard, okay? It's really, really hard. And 9 times out of 10, the people are saying that, oh, so-and-so can't pick up the playbook. Odds are that person's never had to learn a playbook. The person that's doing the criticism, they've never had to learn it. They probably haven't, okay? In reality, it gets really, really hard, guys. So give these guys some time to adjust to college life, okay? Because you also have to add on to that, they're taking a full course load. They've got 5 a.m. weights during the off season, 8 a.m. weights during the season. They've got an hour-long position meeting daily. Okay, they got team meetings sporadic. Okay, God forbid they get hurt. They've got rehab and treatment at least an hour a day. So at the end of the day, you're sitting there counting it up, and you say, well, damn, I've been on my feet for 12 hours. Let me finally get into my playbook. Oh, and maybe I'll get some studying done at mandatory study hall. Okay, these guys are working 12-hour shifts in high school or in college. Okay, their first 2 or 3 semesters, they are mandatory study hall for 2 hours every single day. They got hour weights every single day. They've got hour position meetings every single day. They've got at least 3 hours of class every single day. And if we're in season, they've got a 3-hour practice every single day. You probably didn't know it was that extensive, did you? It is. So give them a break when they take a little time to equate to college football. All right, now, this next topic, we always save our best for last, or at least we've tried to. Lord of the Dings back there has actually done a really good job of helping me out, letting me know what he thinks I'm going to absolutely go berate on and saving that for the end of the show. And tonight, I think we did a very good job of doing that, which for me, a pressure point for me is always going to be the NCAA. If you want to see me get hot and bothered, get me talking about the NCAA. So the next 15, 20 minutes are going to be really, really must-see television. And I would, advise you to just stick around because it's going to be not only fact-based, but it's going to be a lot of passion coming out in this because I absolutely hate what's been going on with recruiting in particular. So we'll start there. I call this the recruiting trickle-down effect. I was on the record with my disdain for the NCAA when they announced that they were just giving free years of eligibility to everybody. We'll give free years of eligibility to everybody. Thought it was great in principle. Everyone did, right? It looked absolutely great for the NCAA. A+ marketing move, right? But of course, in typical NCAA fashion, they failed to realize the repercussions of their actions. It was inevitably going to cause a logjam for potential space on college football rosters for years to come. This is just beginning, ladies and gentlemen. Then, after giving seniors additional years of eligibility that didn't count for scholarship totals in the fall, and upon giving additional years of eligibility to, which they haven't really clearly defined yet, pretty much anybody that applies in the future, but I don't know how you're going to do that. I guess you just gave everybody a red shirt. Don't know. Again, typical NCAA. Didn't actually give you letter of the law, didn't give you a full explanation, just gave you the PR release of, we're letting all these kids come back for free. Okay. But not only did they do that, they went ahead and enacted that free waiver policy, free transfer waiver policy that they've been flirting with for years, ladies and gentlemen. They've been hinting at giving these guys a one-time free pass to go from school A to school B, school A in the SEC to school B in the SEC with no penalty, with an immediate waiver allowing them to get immediate eligibility. They've been flirting with this forever, for at least half a decade, this idea of doing this. And they started sneaking it, in the back door without telling anybody, being real sneaky and under the radar with the graduate transfer. They let that one go just as a test market, as an initial test to see how you guys would react, and you love it. Okay? 4 of your last 5 Heisman Trophy winners have been transfer quarterbacks. Okay? It's graduate transfer quarterbacks at that. It's been great for college football. Everybody loves the graduate transfer market. If you graduate, hell yeah, you ought to be able to go wherever you want. Well, now they've extended it to if you don't choose the right school the first time, you can go wherever you want. But, again, in typical NCAA fashion, they chose this year of all years, where you're already giving seniors additional years of eligibility. They chose this year to allow transfers to just go wherever the heck they want with no repercussions, immediately eligibility everywhere. So, we've got seniors that are able to come back without being counted on next year's seasons, scholarship totals. And we've got NCAA portal entries that are higher than ever before. Last I count, we were at 1,500 Division I players in the NCAA transfer portal. Think about that. Okay? So we've got seniors, highest rate ever of NCAA transfer portals. Now, where I failed you as the audience was coming on here ranting about how this was going to affect schools like Georgia. Well, I was wrong. I was dead wrong back several months ago when they made this rule. Let's just take a look at the SEC. Bama, 26 commits, high school commits in the 2021 signing class. Georgia, 20. And they were going to take a light class anyways because of the transfers like Jamie Newman, Trey McKitty, and guys like that, JT Daniels, that counted on this year's recruiting cycle. So they were pinned up on numbers anyways. That might as well be a full class. LSU, 22 commits in 2021. Texas A&M, 22 commits in 2021. Florida, 24. Tennessee, 21. You get the picture. At the SEC level, at the Power 5 level, with the big boys, it's business as usual for those guys. They are operating like normal. They are letting their seniors go. They are bringing in more talented freshmen. They are running the roster over. They're turning the roster over like a typical year. For the most part, again, they're taking full classes. It's business as usual. Now, this is where I failed you. Let's look at the mid-major level. This is part of our research team today. This is the work that they did. Okay, let's start with the Southeastern conferences in the mid-major level. There's 5 of them. They call them the group of 5 for a reason. Okay, the Sun Belt. Okay, again, a typical class is anywhere from 22 to 24 high school signees in every single class. You know what I mean? The Sun Belt signing in 2021, as of right now, at the rate of an average of those teams in that conference, they're signing 14.7 high school kids per class. 22 to 24, now down to 14.7. Okay? How about the Mid-Atlantic Conference? An average of 13 high school commits. 13. Okay? I didn't even mention in the Sun Belt, there's schools like Texas State. Texas State has 1 high school commit. One high school commit in 2021. They have 10 transfers already. They've already brought in 10 transfers on their roster. UTEP in the Middle Atlantic Conference, UTEP signed 2 high school recruits right now. 2. Not 22. 2. They're going heavily after the transfer market again. So let's extrapolate this to a full cycle just to give you some numbers on what the NCAA didn't do. This is simple math, guys. All they had to do is run the numbers. Okay, look, got 1,500 kids in the portal. We got mid-major teams signing 10, sometimes even 20 fewer high school commits than ever before. Okay, let's extrapolate this to a full cycle. There's 59 mid-major programs per my numbers and per my data. Okay, 59 schools times an average of 14, let's call it 14 for the entire mid-major level of high school commits that they're taking in 2021. That's 826 high school kids that are going to mid-major programs this year. Whereas in a typical year, we're talking about 59 teams signing an average of, again, let's call it lowball, 22 kids per class. That's almost 1,300 kids. So we're talking about a delta just on the mid-major level, guys. A delta, a change in number of high school kids worth 500 kids that would have in a normal year been playing for a mid-major school, would have in a normal year been playing for Troy, been playing for Coastal Carolina, been playing for Texas Tech, been playing for UTEP, been playing for Georgia State. Those 500 kids are being thrown to the wind. They're being gone. They're being asked to take preferred walk-ons at their dream schools, not scholarships. They're being asked to become walk-ons now because the NCAA had a free-for-all on upper-level kids. Transfers from D1s, retreads coming down. Guys like Trey Blunt. You think he went to Old Dominion and just didn't steal a high school kid's spot? He did. Okay, and it's not on Trey Blunt. It's on the NCAA. Okay, you think Notori Johnson. You think he went to Tennessee or Middle Tennessee State and didn't take a high school offensive lineman's scholarship offer? I'm going to let you know he probably did, okay? And it's like that everywhere. Again, there's mid-major schools that are taking up to 10 to 15 transfers, not to mention the seniors that they're bringing back, okay? So bottom line, and I don't blame the coaches either. Bottom line, of course, the head coach at Texas State, who just went 2-10 in 2020, who is coaching for his job in 2021, of course that guy is going to take the oldest and most experienced roster he's ever had available to him. Of course he's going to do that. He's coaching for his job. Not only that, let's take it to a different school, a school like Troy, who they're a pretty decent program in the mid-major conference. They do a pretty good job. 1 year of that school going 9-1 or 10-0 like Coastal did this year, and that Troy head coach is either getting a multi-year contract extension like that joker up at Coastal Carolina did, or he's taking the next Power 5 job that becomes available for about $3.5 million. So, of course, those guys are going to take the older and more experienced guys. Of course. What the NCAA should have done was not released both of these things in the same calendar year and said, sorry, mid-major 2021 kids that are out in high school right now that just had their entire high school season compromised pretty much everywhere. Sorry, tough luck. Better luck next time. That's basically what they did. And we just had a call that got dropped, so sorry about that. If he wants to call back, he can. I was just finishing that power rant. And I want to roll it on into my next rant, which is pretty connected, which is, what the hell does the NCAA actually do? It's a question that we get on the Discord channel all the time. Well, Brooks, we sit here and we get after the NCAA, but what are they actually doing? And to be honest with you, I think this conversation has to be split up into 2 subsequent conversations. Got some big words out here for you tonight. Subsequent, okay? And those 2 subsequent divisions of this conversation are the revenue sports and the non-revenue sports. I believe you have to separate this conversation into those categories. So let's talk about the revenue sports, i.e. football, and at some schools, basketball that pull in a little bit of decent revenue. What is the NCAA in charge of there? Well, I'll go ahead and tell you. They have nothing to do with the college football playoff. Absolutely nothing. That is an independent service that runs basically with all the TV networks that handles all that business. The NCAA is not involved. The CFP rolls on and does whatever the hell they want, no matter what the NCAA says. It's a completely different entity. So they have nothing to do with college football's final. They have nothing to do with the champion that wins it. Nothing. Okay, they have no jurisdiction over conferences. That was fully on display this year. The SEC and the ACC said, screw the Big Ten, screw the Pac-12. Big 12, you can get in here if you want to, but we playing, buddy. And then everybody else kind of followed along. And somebody just threw their hands up on that. They said, we're going to let the conferences decide whatever they want, because in reality, they let the conferences decide whatever the hell they want anyways. They have no jurisdiction over these TV network deals. The $45, $50 million a year that Georgia gets from the SEC network, that Texas A&M gets from the SEC network, that all other 12 SEC members get from the SEC network and ESPN, NCAA has nothing to do with that. They don't bargain on those. That's the SEC going out and having discussions with an entity like ESPN. NCAA, hands up, not my problem. Just like when Texas went out and had their own Longhorn network, NCAA couldn't do anything about that. You don't think that's a difference in a competition advantage? One school, Notre Dame, two schools have their own TV network. How is that not an advantage? Well, it is. The NCAA just can't do anything about it because they have no power. Okay. And again, they have no investigative power when it comes to violations. When these violations occur, they don't have jurisdiction wherever they go. They can't pull the full phone records that they need to. This was absolutely evident when the FBI got involved in college basketball. The FBI has wiretaps on SEC and big, major blue blood college basketball programs on wiretaps, talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars being exchanged over the services of high school basketball players. The FBI had to run that down. The NCAA did nothing. They still done nothing. You ever heard about Bill Self's suspension from the NCAA? No. Will Wade, still coaching at LSU. When he's on the record saying, name your price, nothing is too hot, still coaching college basketball. The NCAA does nothing to the revenue sports because they have no power. The money has the power. And it gets trickled into the NCAA, but it's really tied up in TV deals, okay? It's really tied up in stadium fees. It's really tied up in recruiting budgets. It's really tied up in facility renovations. That's where the money goes. The NCAA has no jurisdiction over that. So what are they doing in the revenue sports? I'll go ahead and tell you, pretty much nothing. Pretty much nothing. They're an overlord. They enact these rules that they say are golden, but they don't really pursue them when they're broken, okay, because they can't. Again, they have no jurisdiction. They have no power. All right, so let's extrapolate this into the non-revenue sports. Extrapolate appears to be my word tonight. Let's take this on to the non-revenue sports, right? This is basically baseball and all of women's sports. The NCAA actually does work there, okay? They're the organizer for the tournaments. They're the organizers for the regionals. They handle basically everything, okay, except for conference championships. They kind of handle that and disperse, make sure schools are dispersing money adequately to make sure those programs are up and afloat and to, the standard that they need to be. So, bottom line, and here's my closing argument. First of all, I'm pretty ticked off the NCAA. You can tell. Skin's getting a little hot over here. But bottom line, the NCAA is a governing body that, like most governing bodies, is overstretched, overworked, and really doesn't possess the actual power, but they capitalize and monetize on the bodies in which it is responsible for governing. I didn't deliver that very well, but you get it. They have no power except the revenue power. They're a collection agency. That's all they are. They're a collection agency that pretends to be a government entity that is there to run everything, but they really don't. They really don't. The money, again, where I told you, that's where the power is. That's where the money's ran. NCAA is just an overlord that's not very active in overlording their company or overlording their product. Just kind of let everybody roam and run free. It's been that way for everywhere. You ever notice that when Ole Miss gets slapped with sanctions, and we talked about this all the time, you ever notice when Ole Miss gets slapped with sanctions, it's not money laundering. It's never money laundering. All you guys think that all these schools are throwing bags. And I don't know whether or not they are, but all you guys think they are. Oh, Georgia's bag man came through. Alabama's bag man came through. Ole Miss's bag man came through. They never get them for the bags. Never. Tennessee got caught, apparently leaked out information. NCAA hadn't caught them with it yet, but the cash in the McDonald's bags might have been a couple $100. You guys are the ones out here telling me that we're getting on to major money transitioning hands. NCAA is never going to be able to come after that because it's money laundering. NCAA has nothing to do with money laundering. That's why the FBI had to get involved with college basketball. FBI ain't sniffing around college football. I'm going to tell you that right now. So when they go slap 8-year show cause orders on Ole Miss's recruiting analyst and Ole Miss's recruiting assistant, they do it for, picking up rent for so-and-so's mom, or picking up rent for a player when you shouldn't, or paying for meals on recruiting visits in which you shouldn't, or taking unsolicited recruiting trips to places in dead periods. That's what NCAA slaps people for violations for. Okay, not since SMU has the NCAA actually ran down people for paying large subsequent dollar values. They don't do it. Again, because they don't have the jurisdiction. So what are they? They're just an overlord, guys. They're an overlord that sits in there and rakes in all the cash. That's our show tonight. I ain't got nothing more for you. I'm out of here, okay? Me and Lord of the Dings, we're going to get out of here. I will tell the Discord family. We do have a lounge area over there that we're in, and I got a phone call right now, so we ain't leaving yet. Stay right here. We got, man, Griffin keeps dropping on me, man. Griffin, Georgia, keeps joking around with my phone feeds. So we're going to see if this joker answers the phone this time. Awkward silence. Hello? Hello? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Missed opportunity. We do have another phone call right here. Hello? God, his phone's messed up, whoever that is. That phone dropped multiple times. So, sorry, that's it. We won't take any more phone calls. I know SSL had a phone call. He wanted to get in tonight, but it looks like he's slacking on his duties, unless that's him right there trying to get in to the phone conversation. But I don't know what the heck's going on with the phone line tonight, and for that I apologize. But I'm venturing to bet it wasn't me. It was him. Hello? Yeah, buddy, your phone's jacked, Andrew. It is absolutely jacked up, and that stinks. I guess you'll have to wait until next MBR session to get in here, Andrew. What was I going to say? Oh, the lounge area. I got 15 minutes post-show to hang out. We'll do Q&A. We'll do whatever you guys want to talk about, whatever. It doesn't matter. We're going to hang out over there and be a family for about 15 minutes before I have to hit these weights. All right, ladies and gentlemen, appreciate y'all for being here. If you haven't already, before I let you go, sign up for the Patreon account, patreon.com/Brooks Awesome. It's high-level content like this all week long, including the nuggets. Come for the spicy nuggets over there. Appreciate you guys.